If you're not familiar with Severance, I highly recommend at least watching the first season to get up to speed with some of the terminology I'm going to be using in this video, as I won't be explaining the dynamics of this show too heavily in this video. There will also be light spoilers. Now, we all know the basics of Severance. A corporation known as Lumen created a procedure where they have a special division of workers that have willingly had their consciousness divided between work and downtime, but none of either consciousness know anything about each other or what they do or how they live. Now, of course, the show has massively evolved away from the basics and has expanded into more what the corporation is hiding and what the actual end goal will be. But as you know, we're now in a rut waiting for season 3. I just cannot get this show out of my head. I've got constant theories bouncing around in my head. I haven't had a show do that to me since watching Lost for the first time. But one thing that does pop into my head, ironically, when I'm at work, is could the severance procedure and structure work in the real world? I wanted to throw around some ideas and just explore the possibilities and complexities, and also maybe find ways to improve some of the flaws with the procedure in the show. So I suppose the first question would be, what job sector would have severed workers? Well, you could perhaps say all. I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to go to work, clock in, literally have your mind go blank, then suddenly you're clocking out and going home? Sounds fantastic, right? Well, there are some ethics to be explored. If you decided to work for a company as a severed employee, how would you explain that on a CV? That you technically have worked for X amount of months or years, but cannot explain what you did in the role. That won't go down well with your next employer. Unless it's for a government agency, then it might be perfect. You certainly be able to keep top secrets secret. Another problem would be the actual surgical procedure. In the show, Lumen carries out the procedure themselves. In the real world, a tech corporation would not be able to carry out this procedure unless they had a medical sector with valid licenses and fully qualified and licensed medical staff. I certainly doubt it could be carried out on the NHS. I would imagine it would have to be done through private medical corporations on behalf of the companies that employ severed workers. Then, said worker no doubt would have to sign a waiver in case of any incidents or the body rejecting the implant, or it could be included in their contract. There's also the recovery time from the surgery. Most workplaces here in the UK do not provide any sick pay, or at the very least up to 5 days a year, or the government provided statutory sick pay, which amounts to something like £70 a week. So once recovered and you're settled into being a severed employee, there is the ethical problem that the outie would essentially collect the whole monthly or weekly salary without actually doing anything, whilst the innie does all the work and has nothing to show for it. All they do is work and see nothing else and know nothing else. This would certainly ring alarm bells with the UK Modern Slavery Act. The only way this could be rectified is with the reintegration, like in the show, but that has its own health risks, unless it can be refined. There is also then the problem of the outie now knowing the job of the innie, and if the job was handling sensitive information, the now reintegrated innie/outie could leak the data, unless the reintegrated employee must sign a non-disclosure agreement before the procedure goes ahead. This is where I think the biggest flaw with the severance procedure in the show is having the innie have no memories of who they are. If this were ever to happen in the real world, I think it would have a greater success if the innie actually still knows who they are and what they have on the outside. A family, for example, but purely sever the memories of the job at hand. It certainly would reduce the friction between the innie and outie. Another problem this would help with is with medical problems, for example. I'm asthmatic and need to carry inhalers. If I was severed, would my innie know what they are and how to use them? I mean, yes, I could leave a note for him, or the company could inform him, but if they still know who they are, then this wouldn't be a problem. It would also potentially litigate the possibility of romantic relationships forming in the workplace. It would lessen the chance of Helly R and Mark S hooking up, as it's now caused a bit of an awkward moment with Gemma, because, as I aforementioned, if they know who they were, they would know that they have a wife, husband or partner at home. Of course, relationships do happen in the workplace, whether the individuals have partners or not. That unfortunately will never be able to be stopped. But again, if the innie has an idea of who they are, it might significantly reduce the chances. Ultimately, there are too many moral questions for severance to happen in the real world. Personally, I feel it would be a great idea for those who perhaps struggle to maintain a work-life balance, and also struggle to keep their personal life separate from the workplace, and for the people who don't switch off from the job at home in their own time. I think they would be perfect for the severance procedure. But looking at how it is laid out in the show, I think it is extremely unlikely severance could or would happen in the real world.